So we've got a Scute Swarm on the battlefield, and Migratory Greathorn goes onto it, goes over it, created a copy. So as you can see, the copies are now Migratory Greathorn Scute Swarms that have been copied. And so now every Migratory Greathorn Scute Swarm is copying itself. Warning, please take a different action or the game will end in a draw. Everybody, Wizards announced today that there will be changes to the standard meta by next Monday, which means that just 3 days after this product releases in paper, we might have another standard banning.
I wonder what it could be about. The video starts right now.
Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We have got potential bannings, at the very least changes to standard, coming next week, announced by Wizards today. And we've got some history data to go over, we've got some opinions, some big tweets to go over, and some speculation of our own. But first, before we get into it, if you wouldn't mind, go down there and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out.
It's the best way to support the channel with just the click of a button, and I have one thing to say, and it's don't come after my crab.
Jake really does not want his crab banned. Let's jump over and look at the first official tweet. So we have got the tweet from @WizardsMagic here. We're closely monitoring developments in Standard. In order to avoid disrupting this weekend's tournaments, we intend to provide an update on the format early next week. For context...
Wait, do we need a translator for this? I have a translation for it.
Go ahead and translate.
I'm pretty sure this says, hey, look, all of the pre-sales are pretty much done, and now we're going to go do damage control now that the bank account is happy and Daddy Hasbro is hungry, covered in honey, in the lair, going, that was nice.
Good, that's a good translation. For a little context here, the last few days on Arena, because we live in the internet age and everything gets solved really quickly and communication is instantaneous, and we have the early access event for a bunch of streamers and pros to all try this stuff out too, we are already in a state of people complaining and panicking a little bit about a few cards. We've got on the chopping block right now, at least in the public eye, we've got Lotus Cobra, we've got Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, and we've got the new Omnath, Locus of Creation, I want to say. I can't really remember the subtitle of the name. That's how young this format is, and we've already got these extreme ban calls happening. However, Jake, I watch a lot of Standard on Twitch. I play a lot on Arena. This deck is oppressive. We can confirm that. We've played it.
Yeah, 100%. It feels inevitable when you play it, and I think that's kind of the problem, is it kind of solves the format too quickly. It's really like, hey, let's best in slot whatever the best Simic card is from the past 3 or 4 years, which is, in this case, Uro, it was Oko, it was whatever before that, Simic Sky Swallower, or not Simic Sky Swallower, Hydroid Crisis, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, it's just like, it's always like this, and it's just like the theme. It's not like I'm pointing fingers at Simic and I'm like, you're the problem, Simic. It's just like every single time. Yeah, it's like some big, bulky blue-green card that's just
or small.
A little bit too OP.
I would say that Growth Spiral was more of a problem than Hydroid Crisis, but I get what you're saying. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
It's been a problem.
It's so much value. Like Growth Spiral, for example, you're ramping, you're drawing, it's like everything that you could possibly want. I don't really know what more you could want on a card on an instant. Yeah, so it's just like all of the product has been pumped out, and now it's like time to go in, do damage control. I don't really know what to think. It doesn't really put me in any kind of situation to be like, well, I really want to go out and play Standard, or I really want to invest in that format. I really want to spend wild cards on that format. And on Arena, obviously, they're going to reimburse the wild cards if they ban something, which is great. Yeah, it doesn't give me any kind of confidence in the format. One thing I would say is the card too good to be true? Is it like when we're talking about Uro, that card has made an impact in every every single format. So you really do have to look at that. Wow, this card made it to the ranks of Legacy. This card made it to the ranks of Modern, which have very, very exclusive barriers of entry as to what cards are good enough for those formats.
Yeah.
And so you have to think about like the card in respect to Standard, which is supposed to be like this like rotating kind of like watered down power level, and not in like a bad way, but like you're trying to get more bang out of your buck. You don't want to lose on like turn 2 or 3.
What Jake is already alluding to is that Uro is probably at the top of everyone's list. We actually ran a little poll on our Twitter after the announcement. What's getting banned? Omnath, Uro, both or neither? And Uro seems to be the problem. It also lines up with the fact that Omnath and neither something else, I think this is pretty loaded as far as Lotus Cobra. I think that Omnath and Lotus are in a set that just came out. And they did, I mean, I talked about this in my standard meta video at the beginning of the week. They have printed direct answers to these cards themselves within the actual set, and that's not even counting the other sets that are in standard. However, Uro is such an enabler, like you said, has gone so deep into so many different non-rotating metas that it's kind of hard not to point to Oko from last year and say, look, it's happening again with Uro, and you need to deal with this card. I guess we should say that this is a fairly loaded announcement here. We're closely monitoring developments in Standard, and in order to avoid disrupting this weekend's tournaments, we intend to provide an update on the format early next week. This could be anything from Uro is banned to we're making a new rule for MTG where you can only play one land a turn. I don't know. It could go so extreme. It could go any way, but the big, obviously,
it definitely will not be the latter. It will definitely be obviously a card is banned. And it really just comes down to, and it's funny because, and shout out to Food Time. Food Time is definitely a memer, and he is one of, our favorites. He's one of our admins, and he likes to explore silly combos. And that thing that we opened up with, it's really sad when you have a card like Scute Swarm and Migratory Greathorn, 2 cards that are new, dude. Like, these 2 cards are like fresh in the standard format. Right. So when you're looking at like a game-breaking thing, and now all we're talking about is Uro, going back to those cards, it's going to be really sad. And it makes me wonder, and I think we should talk about this, what are they doing up there that they don't like put that combo together? Well, that they don't say how does Scute Swarm and Migratory Greathorn, how do we miss this?
Sure.
These cards just came out, and it really does come back to what I think is this like pump as much product out as much as possible, and I think it's kind of falling short in the R&D. And I think that's the nicest way that I can say it.
I think that the Scute Mob Migratory Greathorn thing is a straw man argument right now. I think that that is so easily disrupted and never going to happen at a competitive level. I think that in and of itself, if we just want to discuss that interaction in a vacuum, I think it speaks more to the fact that Arena is not a complete product yet, even though we've been out of beta for years and we're about to go on to mobile. Can you imagine a cell phone trying to figure out what just happened with Greathorns and Scute Swarms without catching on fire? I think that speaks more to Arena not being a complete product or having some shortcomings, if I want to be nice about it.
Yeah,
I think fine. That it's really about the power level of ramp lately. And Jake, you have to think about the fact that Uro was going to be in this format, Veil of Summer for a little while. That would have just rotated. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about powerful Simic cards that were supposed to be in this standard. And so, I think that you have a point with the fact that there's so much coming out. If they can't test all of these products fully, or, they're just not being given the right resources to test these products fully, stuff like that is going to slip through, whether it's a fun, ridiculous meme like Scute Swarm Greathorn, or whether it's an overtly powerful turn 2 Lotus Cobra, turn 3 Uro, turn 4 Omnath, turn 5 play a Fabled Passage, drop Terror of the Peaks,
and you're saying all of that, but how hard is it to just slot in that degenerate combo that we watched in the opening video into a deck like that?
Sure. Sure.
I mean, you're drawing plenty of cards off Uro. You're going to find Great Horn and Scute Swarm. You have to think, wow, both of these cards are green. People might play them together in a deck.
Sure.
How is this interaction going to go on our platform?
So let's talk about this.
Anyway.
The fact that, let's talk for the rest of the video like this is going to be a ban that is announced next week. If this is a ban, this is going to be the closest we've ever come, with the one exception of another set that released this year, to having a card banned before the paper release even happens. Paper release is going to be this Friday. This ban could potentially happen Monday, and it seems like they're only putting it off because they don't want to disrupt some tournament this weekend. And the only time that we've even gotten close to something like this is Lutri being banned in Commander preemptively before the set had even released. The other part of that is that if Uro is the card that is banned, every set since Ravnica Allegiance, except for Ikoria, is going to have a card that has been standard banned. Let me take you through this real quick, Jake, and then I want to get your reaction on this. I tweeted this out earlier today, a decade of standard bans. We had, starting in 2010, so this is the last 10 years, we had two cards banned in 2011, and that was Jace the freaking Mind Sculptor.
We were there.
And Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah, we lived through this.
We lived through it. We were playing standard in that.
Right. It was degenerate. Caw-Blade. That was what was happening.
It was blue-black control, it was blue-white control, and it was Caw-Blade variants. That's what the format was.
That's it.
And I remember them saying that 6 out of the top 8 decks had Jace the Mind Sculptor, and that was it. That was enough. So Jace hit it, and then I think it was like shortly after that, it became a bunch of Caw-Blade variants, and I don't know if they were both banned at the same time, but that was pretty much it. So if you weren't there,
was printed and Stoneforge Mystic was banned. Skip ahead 5 years, and we are in 2017.
So they get back on track. Let's talk about those 5 years. Yeah.
This is huge. This is a lot of play in there.
But I think these are powered down sets, because if I recall correctly, these are sets like Gatecrash and stuff, which brought us some really good EDH cards, but a lot of those sets are very lackluster, boasting cards only like Thoughtseize and stuff like that. Like Theros was one of those cards that, or Thoughtseize was one of those cards that popped up in Theros, and it's like a lot of those sets felt really watered down, which is why we see stuff like underwater box openings of Gatecrash and stuff like that. You know, it's just a set that's kind of like a trash set. So, or that whole block, honestly, which is sad. I shouldn't say that about Return to Ravnica. Return to Ravnica had some really good cards. But once you get into Theros and Journey, and it's like it really does fall flat. But no cards are banned there. However, probably sales are probably lackluster. So what do we see instead now in 2017?
5 cards get banned in 2017. They include Emrakul the Promise End, Smuggler's Copter, Reflector Mage, Felidar Guardian, and Aetherworks Marvel. I mean, you want to talk about testing. That was Felidar Guardian and Saheeli was a 2-card infinite combo, and this was before we were on Arena. This was just like, oh, we're going to build an infinite combo into our paper game, except on MTGO. That was really the only electronic means of playing back then. Moved to 2018.
Hold on. Let's talk a little bit more about 2017 because I think those cards are notable. Smuggler's Copter, this was a card, and we played during this standard environment as well.
Yeah, this is essentially when we got back into it.
Everybody said, why would you not run that in standard? And you have to ask yourself, why wouldn't you run it? And it was a card that popped up in every single deck. Oh, a colorless looter that just slots into anything. Aetherworks Marvel was cheating in Ulamog.
Right.
From Battle for Zendikar. So Aetherworks Marvel had on like turn 3 or turn 4, you could have Aetherworks Marvel, and then people were just rolling the dice. Can we hit the Ulamog? And then you just win. So these were the kind of things that were going on. Reflector Mage, just far too powerful. It was just like, bounce this, you can't play it next turn.
Right.
It's a huge tempo play. So like that kind of stuff, these are the reasons we have all of these pushed cards, and then you have to like go in and do damage control later. Were those preemptive? It's really hard to tell.
We moved to 2018, and what was hinted at with Energy with Aetherworks Marvel comes into full-on play, and that's 4 bannings, Attune with Aether, Rogue Refiner, and those 2 were their attempts to power down the Energy deck, and then Ramunap Ruins and Rampaging Ferocidon, which at the time were...
They banned a land, dude.
Yeah, I mean, so well, at the time, those were weirder bans, but the mono red deck was already coming up, and then by the beginning of 2019, the mono red deck was dominating, and that made sense then why Ramunap Ruins and Rampaging Ferocidon had to die for those, because, I mean, you weren't going to ban, you know, your brand new character from Amonkhet that was your hot as the desert.
What card are you talking about?
Deck.
Which one?
Hazaret, the Fervent.
Oh yeah.
Being the finisher in that deck, you're not going to ban the Mythic if you can't.
And also that card is going to be one of the hyped cards. And I know we shouldn't talk about the sales, but that the hot cards push sales.
Obviously,
from a business perspective, that's what happens.
That is why I wanted to talk about Hazaret, because I think that there's a line that you can draw directly to why I don't think we're going to see Omnath banned next week. Moving into
I don't either.
Moving into 2019, we've got
brand new card. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Same
four
thing with
colors.
Cobra.
Come on, dude. We can't ban a 4-color card.
2019, we have 4 cards banned: Field of the Dead, Oko, Once Upon a Time, and Veil of Summer. Field of the Dead, the inevitability and the uninteractability. Oko just being far too powerful of a card from so many different angles. Once Upon a Time, free spells. Free spells get abused, homies, and that's what happened. And then Veil of Summer, making sure that...
command for 1?
Right.
Sure.
I mean, Veil of Summer just making sure that the most powerful decks weren't even more powerful.
Sure.
That was sort of a preemptive one there, but everybody was already running it, so I don't know how preemptive you can say. And then in 2020, which we're all familiar with, so far we've had 6 cards banned, and they include...
2020 is weird, right?
They include Cauldron Familiar, Growth Spiral, which we already mentioned, Teferi 3, which just invaded every format, Wilderness Reclamation, which again was cheating the fundamental rules of Magic, Agent of Treachery, which died for the sins of Luca, and then Fires of Invention, which was cheating in cards and just going around the rules of Magic the Gathering. I mean, that means that every set, like I said, Ravnica Allegiance, since Ravnica Allegiance on, every set except Ikoria has had a card banned from it, and we probably would have seen an Ikoria banning if it hadn't been brand new, and Agent of Treachery wasn't such an easy target to power down that deck.
I would just say, if you're sitting there and you're like, what should I play in Standard? I would say don't invest in Simic. Just do not.
Yeah, we want to wait until next week for sure. I mean, you can see here where public opinion is currently. We posted this on our YouTube page 6 hours ago. Wizards announced a ban coming on Monday. What do you think's getting banned, and do you feel like it's warranted? Uro, over half of the votes. We think it's going to be Uro. Omnath, look, everybody knows how this works at this point. Everybody's aware. This is not a thing. We don't ban cards from the brand new set, especially not a Mythic, especially not a 4-color Mythic, especially not a 4-color Mythic that's a returning character and is kind of one of the faces of the set in and of itself. Both
it's
Uro
a face
and
of the
Omnath,
packaging. It's the face of the collector booster packaging.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You can't ban that card, man.
Dude, they're not going to ban it. It's a 4-color card. What you need to do is you need to power down the inevitability that comes with Uro. Uro has, it's been in Standard for a while. It's time to go. I talked about the crab. I don't think they're going to ban the crab. I was sad about it earlier that people were calling for a crab ban. I think people just get mad at Mill. I don't think Mill is actually going to be on the chopping block. And if it is, that would be really, really sad. But I think it could be Scute Swarm. I think that, should we speculate on this then?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Hang on, let's swap back over. So the last thing to do really is to talk about what we think it's going to be. I think we've been pretty clear. I say for me, the most realistic is an Uro ban in Standard. The wildest I think would be is if they ban like Uro and Lotus Cobra and really try to make Omnath hard to get to, because Lotus Cobra does make Omnath a little easier to get to because it creates any color of mana. There's a lot of rumors going around, and I think you're going to touch on it. But for me, Scute Swarm, just because it's a weird interaction that can possibly break Arena, that says to me you need to fix Arena and not you need to ban that card just so it's not in Standard. You know, looking at Lotus Cobra, looking at Scute Swarm, these are 1 toughness creatures. They're so easily dealt with, Jake. You say this in every Commander video. Squishy creatures should not be, you know, a problem to deal with. And especially when we just had that 1 red, deal 1 damage, exile the thing that dies, and it's a land on the back. They very clearly said, look, we're putting answers to these powerful cards in the very set that they're coming with, so that hopefully we can get to a point as Wizards and R&D that we have awesome, powerful cards that everybody wants to play with, but we also have equally awesome answers to those cards. So, in short, also, I would say Omnath and Cobra are going to stay. Uro's going to get a ban, and I actually do have sort of a feeling that something else is going to change. Maybe something like they're going to make rotation shorter again, because rotation is so ridiculously long. I have a feeling that something like that could happen, but most likely for me, it's just going to be an Uro banning.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think it's probably going to be an Uro banning, and I think it's just time. The card is just too inevitable. It's, you know, it kind of puts players in a situation where they want to like main deck Graveyard Hate, which feels like wonky and weird, but you know, it's just, I don't know, it's one of these cards that feels bad to play against just because it's so difficult to deal with. It gains life, it draws cards, it ramps, it's like an inevitable threat that comes back at the end of the game. It's just a lot of gas.
100%. The red decks right now are running Roiling Vortex. It deals 1 damage at the begin to the player whose turn it is at the beginning of each upkeep, and you can pay 1 red, and it says opponents or players, somebody can't gain life this turn. So right now, players are playing Roiling Vortex to deal with the life gain aspect of it, but they also have the land that I was talking about that's a 1 red spell to deal 1 damage and exile the thing. So you've got essentially, you know, 6 answers in your deck to it. 4 of the 1 damage to a creature if it dies this turn, exile it, because if you sack Uro, it dies and then it gets exiled. And then like 2 of Roiling Vortex, where it's like, if I don't draw the 1 red damage exile spell, at least I can turn off the life gain and keep
so they
my
just
thing
ping
going.
it on the way to the graveyard, huh?
Right, yeah, exactly. And when it gets sacked, it gets exiled. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's enough of an answer. I mean, you can't have a ramp spell, a life gain spell, and a finisher stapled onto one another, no matter how difficult you think it is to recur from the graveyard.
You left out draw spell.
Oh, yep, and draw spell. And, oh god, yeah, it's just too much.
And when it attacks, you get it again. So if it swings, you're getting value.
Right.
It's just, it's an engine that you can build anything around. You could be like, all right, well, this is it. This is our chunk. What do we want to build around this card?
Exactly.
Because this is the all-in-one. This is like, you know, you're going to Sears and you're like, where is the best refrigerator? And they're like, let me take you to the new Uro. This thing is really good, and it's going to keep everything cold and fresh. And
keep going with this metaphor. I want to see where this one gets.
You know, it keeps it cold and fresh, and that way when you go to the fridge, you're ramping, and when you're eating, you're drawing cards.
Okay,
when
you
you're
heard it here
going
first,
to the bathroom,
everybody.
you're gaining life.
Pick up the new LG Uro in stores now. Find it at your local Sears, even though I'm pretty sure they're out of business. Everybody, that is our take on this.
Sears exists. It does.
It's like Kmart still exists, but does Kmart really exist? That's our take
Kmart
on the
might be
potential
mean.
bannings next week. We're going to have a follow-up video on Monday. Normally, I release my standard meta, state of the meta videos on Sundays, but we're going to push that to Monday next week because it's maybe going to be bans, and we got to talk about what the new answers and threats are going to be. Let us know down in the comments what you think is going to happen next week. It's going to be a really interesting weekend, everybody. Make sure that you watch any tournament coverage you can, because this may be your only chance ever to watch the Cobra, Uro, Omnath, Terror of the Peaks deck. And I gotta say, we played in the early access event. It was very fun. It's a crazy deck. It's a nutso deck. You just really, it's not one you want dominating the format.
Yes, also in the comments, and this is what I want. Joel told you what he wants. This is what I want. If you're playing a deck that's super duper fun, just paste it in the comments. I want to check out what you're playing. What are you playing that doesn't have Uro? I don't want to see your Uro deck. I want to see what you're tinkering with.
Yep.
That isn't rocking that card. But until next time, I'm tapped out.
I'm tapped out. Catch you on the flippity.